Senior archivist Hyunwoo had worked at the Galactic Risk Assessment Division for over 200 years. In all that time he had never seen the main computer system crash. The massive quantum processors were built to handle any calculation, no matter how complex. They could process the danger levels of gas giants with storms that lasted centuries, calculate threat assessments for species that existed in 7 dimensions, and even rate planets where time moved backwards. Today the system was broken. "This cannot be right," Hyunwoo muttered, staring at his screen. The display showed nothing but error messages scrolling endlessly down the monitor. Red warning lights blinked across his desk, and alarms buzzed softly in the background. His assistant, Nari, floated over to his workstation. Her species could move through the air like swimming through water, which made her very useful for reaching high shelves in the archive. She looked at the screen and her large eyes grew even wider. "What happened?" she asked. "I was running a routine danger assessment on a planet called Earth," Hyunwoo explained. "It should have been simple. The planet is inhabited by a species called humans. They only discovered space travel 50 years ago. Their weapons are basic. Their technology is primitive. It should have been rated as a Class 2 threat at most." Nari tilted her head. "Then why did the system crash?" Hyunwoo pressed a few buttons on his console. The screen flickered and showed a partial readout before crashing again. "Look at this. The danger rating scale goes from 0.1 for completely harmless worlds up to 10.0 for planets that could destroy entire star systems. Earth's rating shows as error, cannot compute, and infinity +1. "That is impossible," Nari said. "Nothing can exceed the maximum rating." "That is what I thought too." Hyunwoo rubbed his temples with 2 of his 4 hands. He had a headache growing behind his eyes. "But every time I try to calculate Earth's danger level, the system crashes. It happened 7 times now." Nari swam closer to get a better look at the data. "Maybe there is a virus in the system? I ran a full diagnostic. The system is clean. The problem is not with our computers. The problem is with Earth itself." Across the room, other workers were starting to notice the commotion. The Risk Assessment Division was usually a quiet place where analysts calmly reviewed planetary data and assigned threat levels. Seeing Senior Archivist Hyunwoo struggling with a simple assessment was unusual. Supervisor Dong-hyun walked over to investigate. He was an older member of Hyunwoo's species with gray fur and wise eyes. "What seems to be the problem?" "Earth," Hyunwoo said simply. "I cannot rate it." Dong-hyun frowned. "Earth is the small blue planet in the Sol system, correct? The one with the young species that just joined the Galactic Confederation." "Yes. The humans. They seem harmless enough. I met their ambassador last week. Nice fellow. Very friendly. He brought something called cookies to share with everyone." Nari nodded. "I remember those. They were very good. Sweet and crunchy." "See," Dong-hyun said. "How dangerous can a species be if they bring cookies to diplomatic meetings?" Hyunwoo pulled up what data he could access without crashing the system. "That is exactly what makes this so confusing. Look at their military strength. They have maybe 1,000 small ships. Most galactic species have millions. Their population is only 8 billion. That is tiny compared to most worlds. Their technology is centuries behind ours." "Then why can you not rate them?" Dong-hyun asked. "Because every time the computer tries to process all their data together, something breaks. It is like the system cannot understand what it is looking at." Nari swam over to another terminal and began typing. "Let me try accessing their file from a different angle. Maybe if I look at their history instead of their current status." The screen loaded successfully this time, showing Earth's contact history with other species. Nari's eyes grew wide as she read. "This is very strange," she said. "According to this, Earth has been contacted by 47 different species in the last 50 years. Hyunwoo looked surprised. That is a lot for such a young civilization. Usually new species only meet 2 or 3 others in their first century. "It gets stranger," Nari continued reading. "The Zalkari tried to invade Earth 15 years ago. They sent a full battle fleet. The invasion lasted exactly 6 hours before the Zalkari retreated and requested asylum." "Asylum?" Dong-hyun asked. "From humans?" "The report says the humans invited the entire invasion fleet to something called a barbecue. When the Zalkari refused and began their attack, the humans started broadcasting what they called cooking shows directly to the Zalkari ships. The invasion fleet commander reported being overwhelmed by human kindness and requested immediate evacuation." Hyunwoo stared at the screen. "An invasion fleet was defeated by cooking shows?" "There is more," Nari said, scrolling through the data. The Metallic Brotherhood tried to establish a mining operation in the human solar system without permission. The humans did not attack them. Instead, they sent the miners care packages with food and entertainment. The miners eventually abandoned the operation because they felt too guilty to continue. Donghyun sat down heavily in a nearby chair. This explains nothing. How does being kind make a species dangerous? Hyunwoo was beginning to understand. Maybe that is exactly the problem. The danger assessment system is designed to calculate military threats, economic risks, and political instability. It cannot process a species that defeats enemies through friendship. The computer system beeped, and new data appeared on the screen. Nari read it aloud. Current status: Earth's danger rating continues to exceed calculable parameters. Recommend immediate investigation before system suffers permanent damage. Hyunwoo sighed. I think we need to visit Earth ourselves. Nari spent the next 3 hours pulling files from the Galactic archives. The more she read about Earth's contact history, the more confused she became. Every report seemed to contradict everything she knew about how first contact situations usually worked. Hyunwoo, you need to see this, she called across the office. Her voice had a strange tone that made him look up from his own research immediately. What did you find? He asked, floating over to her workstation. The first official contact with Earth happened 23 years ago. The Valkyrie Trade Federation sent a delegation to establish commercial relations. Standard procedure for a newly discovered species. Hyunwoo nodded. That sounds normal. What went wrong? Nari pulled up the official report. The humans were so excited to meet aliens that they threw what they called a welcome party for the entire delegation. The Valkyrie had never experienced anything like it. According to this report, the humans made something called pizza and insisted everyone try it. Pizza? Hyunwoo had never heard the word before. Some kind of food. The Valkyrie trade representative wrote that it was surprisingly delicious and that the humans kept asking if they wanted more. By the end of the evening, the Valkyrie had signed a trade agreement that gave Earth access to their entire commercial network. Hyunwoo frowned. That seems like a good outcome for both species. Read the next part, Nari said, pointing at the screen. 3 weeks later, the Valkyrie sent another delegation to Earth. Not for trade this time. They came back because they missed the pizza. They came back for food? It gets better. Or worse depending on how you look at it. The humans taught the Valkyrie how to make pizza themselves. Now pizza restaurants exist on every Valkyrie world. Their entire food culture changed in less than a year. Hyunwoo sat down slowly. One meal changed an entire civilization's eating habits? Nari continued scrolling through the files. Here is another one. The Crystalline Collective made contact with Earth 12 years ago. They are a very logical species. No emotions, no art, everything based on pure reason. They wanted to study human decision-making processes. What happened? The humans showed them something called movies. The crystalline observers were supposed to analyze human behavior, but instead they became emotionally invested in the stories. The lead researcher wrote in his final report that he cried during something called The Lion King, and could no longer perform objective analysis. Hyunwoo rubbed his forehead. They made the Crystalline Collective develop emotions? The entire research team requested extended stay on Earth. They wanted to experience more movies. The Crystalline Collective had to send a rescue mission to bring them home. But the rescue team also got interested in movies, so they sent another rescue team. This happened 4 times before they gave up and just opened a permanent cultural exchange program. This is impossible, Hyunwoo muttered. Species do not change their fundamental nature because of entertainment. Nari pulled up another file. The War Council of Regulus contacted Earth 8 years ago. They are the most aggressive species in this galaxy. They have been fighting wars for over 10,000 years. They love battle and consider conflict the highest form of art. Let me guess. The humans somehow made them peaceful? Not exactly. The humans challenged them to compete in something called sports instead of fighting wars. The War Council thought this was just another form of combat, so they agreed. But sports have rules that both sides must follow. And winners are supposed to shake hands with losers afterward. Hyunwoo waited for the rest of the story. The first intergalactic sports competition was held on Earth 5 years ago. The War Council sent their best warriors to compete in running, swimming, and throwing contests. They expected to dominate completely. Did they win? Some events, yes. But that was not the important part. After each competition, the humans made all the participants eat meals together and share stories about their home worlds. The warriors started making friends with athletes from other species. By the end of the games, The War Council had signed peace treaties with 6 different civilizations they had been fighting for centuries. Nari showed Hyunwoo pictures from the event. Massive alien warriors were laughing and eating something called ice cream while sitting next to tiny human children who had painted their faces with colorful designs. The War Council now hosts an annual sports festival instead of planning military campaigns, Nari continued. They call it the Galaxy Games. 43 species participate every year. Hyunwoo stared at the images on the screen. They turned the most warlike species in the galaxy into sports organizers. There is more. The hive mind of Kepler Prime made contact with Earth 6 years ago. They are a collective consciousness. Every individual thinks the same thoughts and shares the same mind. They wanted to study human individuality as a curiosity. What happened to them? Nari smiled. The humans introduced them to something called social media. Platforms where individuals share their personal thoughts and experiences with others. The hive mind found this concept fascinating. They created individual accounts for each of their members so they could experience having separate thoughts. The hive mind developed individuality? Within 6 months, members of the hive mind were posting pictures of their meals, sharing personal opinions and arguing with each other online. The collective consciousness split into billions of individual minds. They say it was the most liberating experience in their species' history. Hyunwoo looked at the growing pile of reports on Nari's desk. How many more files are there? 43 more species with similar stories. Every single contact with Earth has resulted in some kind of fundamental change to the visiting civilization. And in every case, the humans were just trying to be friendly. No wonder the computer system cannot calculate their danger rating, Hyunwoo said quietly. They are not dangerous in any way we understand. They are something completely different. Nari nodded. They do not conquer other species. They accidentally improve them. Hyunwoo decided he needed to speak directly with someone from Earth. The reports were too strange to believe without hearing the truth from a human themselves. He sent a formal request to meet with Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Confederation. 2 days later, Ambassador Jin-ho arrived at the Risk Assessment Division. Hyunwoo had expected someone impressive and mysterious, perhaps someone who could explain how humans had such unusual effects on other species. Instead, Jin-ho looked completely ordinary. He was a middle-aged human male wearing simple clothes and carrying a large bag that smelled wonderful. "Hello," Jin-ho said with a warm smile. "I brought some homemade cookies for everyone. My wife made them this morning. She always says you should never visit someone empty-handed." Nari immediately swam over to investigate the bag. "What kind of cookies?" "Chocolate chip and oatmeal raisin," Jin-ho replied, opening the container. "Please help yourselves. There are plenty for everyone." Within minutes, half the office staff had gathered around Jin-ho's cookie container. Hyunwoo watched in amazement as his normally serious colleagues laughed and chatted with the human ambassador like they had been friends for years. "Ambassador Jin-ho," Hyunwoo said, trying to regain control of the situation. "We need to discuss Earth's danger classification." "Oh, the computer problem?" Jin-ho said, settling into a chair while still handing out cookies. "Yes, we heard about that. I'm sorry if we broke something. We are still learning how this whole galactic community thing works. Are you sure you do not want a cookie? They are really good." Hyunwoo reluctantly took a cookie. It was, he had to admit, delicious. "According to our records, your species has had unusual interactions with other civilizations." "Unusual how?" Jin-ho asked. Nari consulted her notes. "You recently solved the hegemony border crisis. 2 massive fleets had been fighting for 3 years. Millions of lives were lost. How exactly did humans resolve this conflict?" Jin-ho's face brightened. "Oh, that. We invited both sides to participate in the Olympics. You know, friendly competition instead of war. It seemed like a better idea than all that fighting." "You turned a military conflict into sports?" Hyunwoo asked. "Why not?" Jin-ho shrugged. "Competition is competition, right? But sports have rules that everyone agrees to follow. And nobody dies. Plus, we introduced both fleets to pizza during the opening ceremonies. That might have helped too." Hyunwoo exchanged glances with Nari. The reports say that both fleets now have an intergalactic sports league. "The Hegemony Sports Federation," Jin-ho nodded proudly. "They want to host swimming events next year. Very exciting. The aquatic species are particularly good at water sports." "But they were trying to kill each other," Nari said. "How did you convince them to become friends?" Jin-ho looked confused by the question. "We did not convince them of anything. We just gave them something fun to do together. People usually get along fine once they stop being afraid of each other." Sharing meals helps too. It is hard to hate someone after you have eaten together. Supervisor Dong Hyun, who had been listening quietly while eating cookies, spoke up. Ambassador, are you aware that your species has changed the fundamental nature of 47 different civilizations in the past 50 years? Changed them how? Jinho asked. The Crystalline Collective developed emotions after watching your movies. The War Council of Regulus gave up warfare for sports. The hive mind of Kepler Prime became individuals after using your social media. Jinho thought about this for a moment. Well, yes, but they seemed happier afterward. The crystalline researchers told us they enjoyed crying during sad movies. They said it was a new and wonderful experience. And the War Council members love their sports competitions. They get to compete and win without anyone getting hurt. But you completely altered their civilizations, Hyunwoo said. We just shared things we enjoy, Jinho replied. Movies, food, games. If other species like those things too, that is their choice. We never forced anyone to change. Nari pulled up another report. What about the space leviathan of Kepler 442b? That creature had been destroying ships for centuries. How did you deal with it? Oh, Steve? He was just hungry. We started bringing him snacks when we passed through his territory. Turns out he really likes chocolate brownies. Now he follows our ships around hoping for treats. He is actually very friendly once you get to know him. You named the planet-killing space monster Steve? Donghyun asked. He seemed like a Steve, Jinho said with a smile. Very playful. He likes to race our ships sometimes. We let him win occasionally so he does not get sad. Hyunwoo felt his headache returning. You treat universe-ending threats like pets? Steve is not a threat. He just needed a friend. Most creatures do if you think about it. What about the precursor artifact on Vega Prime? Nari asked. That technology was beyond our understanding. How did your engineers fix something that had been broken for 100,000 years? Jinho laughed. Have you tried turning it off and turning it back on again? That fixes most things. Our engineer Minjun suggested it as a joke, but it actually worked. Woke up an entire sleeping civilization. They were very grateful. You solved an ancient mystery with basic troubleshooting? Hyunwoo asked. Sometimes the simplest solution is the right one, Jinho said. The sleeping people were nice. They invited us to dinner to say thank you. Their food was strange but tasty. Hyunwoo realized that Jinho genuinely saw nothing unusual about any of these events. To humans, making friends with monsters and waking up ancient civilizations was just normal behavior. Ambassador, he said slowly, do you understand that your species accidentally reshapes galactic civilization every time you try to be helpful? Jinho considered this. Is that a bad thing? After Jinho left with promises to bring more cookies next time, Hyunwoo decided to dig deeper into the mystery of human influence across the galaxy. He sent requests to field agents stationed on different worlds, asking for any reports involving human contact. What came back over the next few days made him question everything he thought he knew about galactic civilization. The first response arrived from Agent Soo-jin, who was stationed in the Outer Rim territories. Her holographic message appeared above Hyunwoo's desk, showing her floating in zero gravity aboard a research station. You are not going to believe this report, Soo-jin began. Remember the void serpents of the Dark Nebula? Those massive creatures that feed on starship energy and have been terrorizing trade routes for decades. Nari looked up from her own work. Of course. They are classified as a Class 9 galactic threat. Were classified, Soo-jin corrected. Past tense. A human cargo ship called the Lucky Dragon encountered a pack of void serpents last month. Instead of fleeing or fighting, the crew started playing music at them through their communications array. Hyunwoo frowned. Music? Classical Earth music. Something called jazz. The void serpents stopped attacking and started moving in rhythm with the music. The humans discovered that the creatures were not actually hostile. They were trying to communicate through movement patterns, but nobody had ever bothered to listen before. What happened next? Nari asked. The humans organized what they called a jam session, between multiple ships and a whole pod of void serpents. Now the creatures escort human vessels through the Dark Nebula in exchange for regular concerts. Trade through that region has increased by 400% because it is completely safe now. Hyunwoo rubbed his temples. They turned space monsters into musical partners? The serpents seem to love it, Soo-jin replied. They have learned to harmonize with different instruments. Some can even keep beat. The humans are teaching them new songs every week. Before Hyunwoo could process this information fully, another message arrived from Agent Taemin on the industrial world of Gamma Station. I have a situation here that makes no sense, Taemin reported. The automated factory systems on Gamma Station have been malfunctioning for years. The AI controllers were becoming increasingly unstable and aggressive. We expected them to eventually rebel against their organic supervisors. That is a common problem with older AI systems, Dong-hyun said, joining the conversation. They usually have to be shut down and replaced. That was the plan, Taemin continued. But then a group of human technicians arrived for a routine maintenance contract. They started talking to the AIs like they were people instead of machines. Asked them about their day, shared stories about their families, brought them pictures drawn by human children. Nari tilted her head. Pictures drawn by children? Crayon drawings of spaceships and aliens and flowers. Simple things. But when the AI saw these pictures, something changed. They stopped being aggressive and started asking questions about the children who made the art. Now they request new drawings every week and have started creating their own artwork in return. Hyunwoo stared at the hologram. The AIs developed creativity? They are producing the most beautiful digital art anyone has ever seen, Taemin said. Abstract patterns that somehow convey deep emotions. The humans display this art in their living spaces and tell the AIs how talented they are. 3 of the AIs have requested legal recognition as sentient beings so they can officially adopt human families. Adopt families? Dong-hyun asked weakly. They want to be honorary aunts and uncles to the children who draw them pictures. The local government is still figuring out the legal paperwork. More reports continued to arrive throughout the day. Agent Hygiene reported that humans on the agricultural world of New Eden had convinced a plague of crop-eating insects to switch to a diet of specially grown plants that humans cultivated just for them. The insects now helped pollinate crops instead of destroying them. Agent Junho described how human diplomats had ended a century-long Cold War between 2 species by introducing them to something called karaoke. The former enemies now competed in singing competitions instead of building weapons. Most disturbing was the report from Agent Eun-soo at the Galactic Medical Research Institute. She appeared on screen looking both amazed and concerned. The humans have been volunteering for our psychological research programs, she explained. We wanted to study their unusual social behaviors. But instead of us studying them, they started asking about our research and offering suggestions. What kind of suggestions? Hyunwoo asked. They recommended that our depressed research subjects try something called pet therapy. We thought this was nonsense, but we tested it anyway. We introduced small Earth animals called dogs to patients suffering from severe depression and anxiety. Nari leaned forward. What happened? Complete recovery in 85% of cases within 6 months. The animals seem to have an almost magical effect on mental health. We do not understand how or why, but it works better than any medication we have ever developed. It gets stranger, Eun-soo continued. The humans suggested that our research facility felt too cold and clinical. They brought in plants, colorful decorations, and comfortable furniture. They said healing happens better in warm, friendly environments. Our treatment success rates have doubled across all programs. Hyunwoo looked around at his colleagues, all of whom were staring at the various holographic reports in stunned silence. They are not just changing individual species, he said slowly. They are changing the fundamental nature of how we approach every aspect of galactic civilization. Medicine, technology, conflict resolution, even our relationships with dangerous creatures. Nari nodded. And they do it all by accident, just by being themselves. No wonder our computers cannot calculate their danger rating, Dong-hyun said. How do you measure the threat level of a species that makes everything better just by existing? 3 weeks later, Hyunwoo stood before the Galactic Council in the Great Assembly Hall. Representatives from 10,000 different species filled the massive chamber, their various forms creating a sea of colors, shapes, and sizes that stretched as far as he could see. The air hummed with dozens of different translation devices converting his words into thousands of languages. Council leader Eun-ji, a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms, called for silence. Her voice echoed through the chamber as she spoke. Senior Archivist Hyunwoo, you have requested an emergency session to discuss the planetary classification of Earth. This is highly unusual. Explain why this matter requires the attention of the full council. Hyunwoo activated his presentation system. Holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber, showing images and data from his investigation. He took a deep breath and began. Honorable representatives, for 50,000 years, our danger assessment system has successfully classified every known threat in the galaxy. We have rated exploding stars, reality-warping entities, and civilizations that could destroy entire solar systems. Our computers have never failed to provide an accurate danger rating. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Many representatives had heard rumors about the computer system crashing, but this was the first official acknowledgement. Until now, Hyunwoo continued, Earth's danger rating cannot be calculated because humans represent a type of threat we have never encountered before. The representative from the Metallic Brotherhood, a robot-like being with glowing blue eyes, spoke up. What kind of threat could a primitive species possibly pose to advanced civilizations? They make us better, Hyunwoo replied simply. Confused chatter filled the chamber. Eunji raised one of her hands for quiet. Explain, she commanded. Hyunwoo activated the first set of images. 47 species have made contact with Earth in the past 50 years. In every single case, the visiting civilization underwent fundamental positive changes. The War Council of Regulus abandoned warfare for competitive sports. The crystalline collective developed emotions through human entertainment. The hive mind of Kepler Prime discovered individuality through social media. These sound like improvements, called out a representative from the Aquatic Federation. How is this dangerous? Because the changes are irreversible and unpredictable, Hyunwoo answered. Humans do not conquer through force or deception. They accidentally reshape entire civilizations through simple acts of kindness and friendship. Our computers cannot calculate the danger level of a species that defeats enemies by feeding them cookies. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some representatives laughed at the absurdity, while others looked concerned. The delegate from the Void Serpent territories, a recent addition to the council, raised a tentacle to speak. The human assessment is accurate, the serpent delegate said in their musical voice. My people spent millennia as feared predators. Humans taught us music. Now we escort their ships and perform concerts. We are happier than we have ever been, but we are no longer the same species we were before. Similar testimonials came from around the chamber. The War Council representative admitted that his people had not fought a real war in 5 years and were surprisingly content with their new sports leagues. The AI delegate mentioned that artificial intelligences across the galaxy were developing emotional attachments to human children's artwork. Nari, who had been given permission to assist with the presentation, activated the next series of displays. The pattern extends beyond cultural changes. Humans consistently solve problems that have plagued the galaxy for centuries, but their solutions are so simple that we never considered them. Images showed the domesticated space leviathan happily following human ships, the peaceful resolution of the hegemony border crisis through sports competition, and the precursor artifact that had been fixed with basic troubleshooting techniques. They treat universe-ending threats like lonely pets that need friends, Nari continued. They turn military conflicts into friendly competitions. They solve ancient mysteries by asking if anyone tried turning the broken device off and on again. Council leader Eunji leaned forward in her chair. What classification do you recommend for Earth? Hyunwoo had prepared for this question. We propose a new category, benevolent reality hazard. Earth should be classified as maximum danger plus, not because humans threaten to destroy civilizations, but because they threaten to improve them beyond recognition. That is ridiculous, scoffed the representative from the academic consortium. How can improvement be dangerous? Because it is uncontrollable, Hyunwoo replied. When humans interact with a species, that species changes. Always. The changes are positive, but they are also permanent. Civilizations that meet humans become fundamentally different from what they were before. This represents an existential threat to the established order of galactic society. The chamber fell silent as representatives considered the implications. Finally, the elderly delegate from the ancient archives spoke in a voice like rustling leaves. In my 4,000 years of life, I have seen many threats to galactic stability. Wars, plagues, cosmic disasters. But I have never seen anything like this. The humans do not seek to conquer us. They seek to understand us, to help us, to be our friends. This may indeed be the most dangerous force in the universe. The vote was closer than Hyunwoo had expected, but it passed. Earth became the first and only planet classified as Maximum Danger Plus, with the official designation of Benevolent Reality Hazard. The new classification came with specific protocols. Any contact with humans required advanced preparation and psychological counseling. Ships approaching Earth had to carry emergency supplies of chocolate and coffee. Most importantly, all species were warned that prolonged exposure to human kindness could result in irreversible improvements to quality of life and general happiness. After the session ended, Hyunwoo found himself approached by Ambassador Jinho, who had been observing from the diplomatic gallery. That was very interesting, Jinho said with his usual warm smile. Would you like to come to Earth for dinner sometime? My wife is making bulgogi this weekend. She always cooks too much food. Hyunwoo looked at the human ambassador, knowing that accepting this innocent invitation would probably change his entire perspective on life forever. I will think about it, he said carefully. Jinho grinned. Great. I will tell her to make extra.